Well, at this point, I'll welcome everyone. My clock is chiming 7, as you can hear. So, uh, welcome to our October roundtable, and I will turn it over to Mary Benjamin for our opening.
I had a very short, sweet, and simple opening, so thank you everybody for attending. Um, in pondering the fall, um, one of my favorite times of year. It's a great, everybody's back to school. Scouting season starts again, even though it never really stops. But this is kind of like the formal rebirth to it. I found this beautiful quote and I wanted to share it with everyone. It's from Margaret Elizabeth Sangster. Don't know who she is. But spring is beautiful and summer is perfect for vacations. But autumn brings a longing to get away from the unreal things of life, out into the forest at night with a campfire and rustling leaves. And I think that says a lot about our program. That's really our goal is for the outing and scouting. So I felt it was appropriate to share. So thank you. And I hope everybody enjoys our program this evening.
Thank you, Mary. All right. Okay, let's get right into announcements and everything there. Greg?
All right. Hi, everyone. Sorry about my voice. I don't have a whole lot. I made the slideshow, and I will I'll get that playing a little bit later for you again, and make sure it's on the video as well, and drop it in the chat for you. I just want to highlight two things. One, I highlighted last month, the reminding people about the update to the overnight camping rules for our older programs, Scouts BSA and older. Everyone attending overnight must be in a registered position in the role that they are playing at in that at that camp out. And for Cub Scouts, the one exception is if the adult attending is a parent or the legal guardian of a scout that is there. So do review those rules. Also, the BSA has been pushing out on social media some reminders about arrow of light den camping requirements, and very specifically to when they're camping with a troop. So I'm not going to read everything that's on the page here. But it's a couple pages of slides that you can read as I'm going through. But it is important to remember that they are two separate campouts. It's a Cub Scout den campout. They have to have the adult leadership there, including the pack needs to have a Baloo trained individual there, and then two registered adults over the age of 21 for that group. And then the troop has to have their side as well. If the two units are not registered by the same chartering organization, the Boy Scouts of America, and really the important part here is our insurance company considers those to be two separate entities. And for that to happen, it has to be either run by or approved by the council. So if both chartering org reps would send me either a joint letter or an email authorizing it for them to camp together, I will approve it. We just need to know that it's happening. So that can be sent directly to me. That's what this paragraph is about. Reminding us to look through the guide to safe scouting. I talked about this a little bit earlier, the Baloo, the adults that are camping, and then tenting. Again, the Cub Scouts youth can tent with the parent or a guardian, but they are not supposed to be tenting with the Scouts BSA youth. It's a separate program. Talked about this piece again. It's just kind of reiterating. So, and then one of the requirements talks about using the patrol method. And if they're camping separate, I mean, they're together, they're jointly camping. But if they're not truly integrated, what are ways that the Scouts can see the patrol method? Here are a couple ideas that they talk about. And also one of the things I didn't highlight earlier on a slide is the participating in a troop activity does not require it to be an overnight stay, but it is allowed. So sorry that this didn't come out as clean as I thought it did. But just a couple ideas, for them to observe, for them to have some old chores and activities with in their own den, that are getting used to what the patrol method would look like. And then it reminds us to look and make sure that the activities if the Scouts BSA group organize the activities, that those youth might be doing some things that are not authorized for our aero lights to be participating in. So to make sure that we check the age appropriate guidelines, and then also review the safe checklist for all of our campouts and activities, as a final reminder. Thank you, Ellie.
All right, thank you, Greg. Do we have any anything for our district updates? Anybody with anything coming up? Okay, how about Order of the Arrow? It's a quiet fall.
I'm here for
right.
0. We have our banquet coming up on October 15th that we would love to see more people attending.
And which banquet is that, Abby?
For the Pecumtuck Lodge, it's our annual banquet and our auction,
Okay, so
and
the OA
everyone is invited to attend that.
and the time again?
So it's gonna be October 15th. Doors open at 4, and doors open at 4. Everything else will start around 5 or so.
And where is it?
At Cedars Banquet Hall in Springfield.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
And who is there anybody who's a particular contact person for tickets, or is that information online?
All of that information is going to be on the website.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
And Ellie, I'm sorry, Art might have some, if you don't have Art separate, he might have some council updates.
I do have Art as next on the list as our professional.
Hello there. So just a couple of things tonight. This week is our chocolate and refill distribution. So the popcorn will be arriving on Thursday at 1 p.m. So units that have to pick that up. We just sent out a little while ago, a little email thing for you to let us know when you are coming. Certainly I understand Mass Jam is happening this week as well, but for those units that are selling, to let us know. The final orders for popcorn are due at the end of the month. So you'll hear more about that. So we still have plenty of time for folks to do take order, as well as show and sell for the rest of this month. The other thing, just a quick little note, Mary Benjamin has first refusal for the training committee. There's a number of items that are being asked if the Scout Council wants them, outdoor gear, but it's sort of unusual things, one of which is a coffee press to be used, I guess, on a campfire or camp stove or something. So I did give Mary first refusal if she wanted them for outdoor skills or any other program that we might have. Otherwise, there's a small list of upper end things that are not generally the things we get. It's not cook kits and canvas tents, some other stuff. So as soon as I hear from her, I will publish the list out what's still remaining if anyone's interested in those things. We had our first Western Mass Council newsroom in September. That went very well. We'll stay committed to that. So on the toward the end of the month on a Tuesday, we will have another opportunity to visit and spend more time on some of the topics that we might mention here under news. I guess the very last thing to remind folks is that popcorn is winding up due to the contract we have with the popcorn company. We can't have any other product sales going on, but we can just say when we close the popcorn sale at the end of October, for November, December, we will have what has traditionally been another product sale. But again, can't talk about that now. You all probably can guess. Also, some folks have asked about the individual assistance form. There was a slight delay in getting that revision done. Those do need to be filled out on an annual basis for those that take individual assistance for membership, uniform, etc. That all has been now all signed off on, and we are just waiting on the final copy print to come out. So that should happen by the end of the week. That is all that I can think of. Well, we are looking for a bookkeeper. We are, so that is a thing that we need to hire someone part-time position to be at the council. If someone is interested in bookkeeping, essentially accounts payable, receivable. So thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Okay, thank you, Art. Hey, Art or Greg, do we have any updates on things with the trading post, times, hours, anything like that?
So the new hours are still in effect, that we are open Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 9 to 4. Our late night is now Thursday, 11 to 7. There still is a commitment to being open one Saturday a month, and you have to check the calendar for that. But the next open, well, actually I have the two next open dates, October 14th and November 4th are the 2 next Saturdays.
Okay, all right, thank you. To kind of piggyback on what Art said in talking about the popcorn sale and things like that, November 6th, we do meet in a hybrid format. And for those of you who will be coming to the center, to Epicenter for the in-person roundtable, the food challenge is popcorn. So what do you do with popcorn? Do you make something else out of it? Do you put coatings on it? What do you, what? So that will be our taste challenge. In keeping with our popcorn sale, we'll do that. All right. David O'Leary, there you are. Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
David, you're going to be spending some time talking about rechartering for us, please.
Yes. Well, first of all, just a quick introduction. I think I've met many of you, but I have, and you may know this, I've been serving in a new role for the last few months as the council commissioner. And the commissioner staff, our role and is what we do in scouting is support the units. So Roundtable is one example of how we do that. Ellie is our Roundtable commissioner. But another way that we support units is help them with the rechartering process. I expect that some of you have been through this already and you're familiar with it, but I'm going to just kind of give a quick overview of the process and let you know about the timeline for this year. So I sincerely hope that your recruiting has been going well through the summer and through the month of September. I hope that you continue recruiting and that continues to be successful. And but as part of that recruiting and such, whether it's youth members or new adult volunteers, I hope you've been kind of thinking about rechartering and making sure you get your applications turned in and such, because that really makes it easier when you get to the rechartering process. There's less kind of fluctuations to have to deal with. So some big news today, October 2nd, is when the internet rechartering is supposed to be opened. I got home from Philmont at after 1 a.m. this morning, so I will admit that I have not actually checked to confirm this myself, but all of the schedules said it was supposed to be open today, October 2nd. So and what that means is that through your Scout Book account, you should be able to see your unit roster. When I say you, if you're the unit leader, the top unit leader, if you're the committee chair, or if you're the chartered organization representative, or someone who has been designated to work on rechartering, you can see the unit roster and start this process. And that unit roster will reflect what the council and the national BSA believe, who they believe are members of your unit. So you have to confirm all of those folks. You know, are there new people who are missing perhaps? Was there somebody who dropped off by mistake? Are there new people that are joining and you need to add them in? So that that process continues through the month of October. You also need to make sure you're clear on all of the volunteer leaders and who's serving in each role for the upcoming year. Whether that's, again, Cub Master, Assistant Scoutmaster, Chartered Organization Representative, all of those. And then, and again, make sure that all your new members are reflected on your rechartering process. You need to collect the fees, and Art mentioned about the support and the special the form that will be available very soon. If you have a family that needs some additional financial support. And then, so between now and November 14th, you should be finishing, you know, all of that inventory, checking your roster, addresses, contact information, all that. Also, for all of the adults, you need to confirm that they've completed youth protection training. So you have 6 weeks to get all of that done. And then you should submit your recharter on or before November 15th. If you finish up early, please feel free to do that. Another piece is that the key three, again, the unit leader, the council or the unit committee chair, and the chartered organization representative all need to sign off. And then, so that mid-November is really our target for this year. If you're not clear about that timeline, in the compass the last couple of weeks, there's been a little diagram that shows that timeline. So please refer to that. You can also, if you have questions, please reach out to me or reach out to Art, who was just speaking, and we'll be glad to help you out. Some of you have a unit commissioner who you can contact. Also, Fritz is the district commissioner for General Knox. Please contact him. So we have lots of support to try to help you if you have any questions. And I think that's it, unless there are questions right now. You can either put them in the chat or just
You can shout out Art again. There is a series of scheduled places that you can turn in the charters if you can't get all the way down to the office or don't want to mail it, email it, which are both acceptable as well. But there's a route that week of November that they're due that we will be out and about at various places.
Yes, thanks for bringing that up, Art. I forgot to include that. So some of the spots in Berkshire County and different places around the council. So thanks, Art. And those dates are now posted on the council calendar, correct?
Correct.
Yep, great, thanks.
Okay. Thanks, David. Okay, next up we have Fritz, who is one of our council and district committee members, and he's going to speak about some of the youth protection piece. He's our youth protection champion, and I will ask him. There was a piece of information that came out in the Compass, I believe it was last week or the week before, that I sat there kind of confused about. So, Fritz, what kind of insights do you have for us on youth protection?
Okay, thank you, Ellie. I probably know what that question is that confused you. Before I get into that, I just want to mention about rechartering. If you don't know, if you're in General Knox District and you don't know who your unit commissioner is, please contact me. You can do that through the council website. That's probably the easiest way to do it. And go to General Knox District. You'll see my name there and access to an email that I will get, and I will reply as soon as I possibly can. The youth protection confusion, I think, has arisen from a resolution passed by our council board at last month's meeting. This resolution was an outgrowth of increasing frustration on my part as the council youth protection champion, as well as other people who in our council who have to deal with this. So I've been doing this about 2.5 years, and what my process was to every month or so check our district roster and the council roster and see whose youth protection certification has expired and send them a reminder or send their district commissioner a list of folks and say, these folks have expired youth protection. They shouldn't be meeting according to BSA policy with kids or interacting with them in any way. So if you could give them a nudge and get them to redo that, that would be great. Nationally, many councils have been improving over time in the percentage of people who are consistently up to date with their youth protection certification. So many councils in the United States are at 99.6% certified for youth protection. Our council is at the very bottom of the list of 250 odd councils, something like that, with 92%. Now, 92% sounds really, really good. And in school, that might be a grade that you would want to strive for and be very happy with if you got. But if you're the lowest one and the teacher's grading on a curve, which is actually what we're doing here with youth protection training, that's an F. So our council is really an F when it comes to youth protection training because 8% of us refuse to stay up to date with this certification. And if I'm sounding frustrated, I ask you to be patient with me because I am very frustrated. I would send these folks reminders, and then the next time I look at the list, most of those people would still be there, having not renewed in a month or 6 weeks or whatever. So I'd send them another reminder and another and another, and most people would not even reply. A few people, and I'm grateful for this, and I want to be positive about this. Some people would say, hey, thank you, I forgot, and I will take care of it. And 2 or 3 days later, they'd send me their certificate of completion as proof that they did it. And I was very pleased that there are some people who respond to that kind of nudge. But some of you may have heard this, me mention this before, that in dealing with folks, there's that 20-60-20 principle. When you ask 100 people to do something, 20 will do it right away because they know it's the right thing to do and you're asking them to do it and they just get it taken care of. 60% want to do it right away, but they need a little bit of a nudge every once in a while. And the last 20% really don't care and they'll do it when they feel like it. So I think that's what this 8% of the group in our council is. They're just either they don't care or they left scouting and didn't bother to tell anybody, so the name is still on the list. And so it's very frustrating for me to have to deal with this. It's frustrating for the council to be at the bottom of the national roster when it comes to youth protection training. So a resolution was passed that when an individual recharters, they must have a minimum of 1 year's certification in youth protection ahead of him or her. Okay, so I'll use myself an example. My unit's going to recharter in December at the or hopefully November 15th, which I don't know if that's going to happen, but we're going to recharter. And my youth protection expires in April, which means I only have 4 months past my recharter date on the books for youth protection. So I'm going to have to take youth protection before I recharter. Not in April, not in March, but in October, November, December, I'm going to have to take that training so I'm ahead. Okay, you understand? So that's what we are asking everyone to do. That's what the council is asking people to do. And if they don't do that, they will not be rechartered either as a merit badge council when that time comes or with their unit when their unit recharters. They will simply be removed from the list and they will not be rechartered. A couple people have said to me, oh gosh, the innocent people always get punished. Well, the innocent people, the good people, the people who understand this will take the youth protection because they know it's the right thing to do and they'll get it done because that's who they are and they get it. So the innocent folks aren't going to be punished at all. They just need to take youth protection. And one of the things I found is that National constantly updates that training and they add new things and they add new policies and they add new laws to that. And if you take it once every 2 years or once every 3.5 years, like some people like to do, you miss all that. And you're just not up to date with the training. The whole idea is that we want to protect our kids and keep them safe. And taking youth protection in a timely way will help us all do that. And I know I'm talking to the choir, and I apologize for that, but maybe you can pass the word on to other people in your units and let them know that this is the way that our council has found to resolve this issue of people not rechartering in a timely way. If you have any questions or concerns, you can reach me through the council website, and we can discuss it. And if we need to talk on the phone, I will give you a call, and we can talk about this. But I don't think that this is cruel or unusual punishment for anybody. It's just take the training, keep up to date, everything is good. Any
Wonderful.
questions? Thank you, Ellie.
All right, thank you, Fritz. All right, we're going to move on to our, let me find it. Oh dear. I am trying to find. Oh, there it is. Okay. We're going to. All right. Can everyone see this screen?
Yeah, shows the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, okay. It's because I've been doing a couple of different things today. Right. Our safety moment is about cyber chip and digital awareness. And I wanted to make sure that we covered the options for Cub Scouting because things some of you will know have shifted a little bit. So there are now preview adventures for lions, tigers, wolves, bears, webelos, and arrow of light. And these are screenshots from the scouting website. And you will see underneath that they have the requirements, they have den meeting plans, and you can download a video. So I wanted to make sure all of the Cub Scout leaders were aware of that, right? When we get to grades 6 to 8 in scouting, there is a cyber chip card, and there are some things that are required, okay? The other piece is that all cyber chips expire annually. So they do need to be kept up to date, right? And again, cyber chip requirements for grades 9 to 12. Okay. Again, some requirements here, 3 of the following. And again, it expires annually. So just a reminder to everyone, and if you have new leaders, please share this information. Okay. Right. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the digital awareness and cyberbullying. Gaming bullying is another thing that's happening out there. And we want to keep our youth aware of it. This is from a from the prevention of cyberbullying, for cyber gaming bullying and scouting. It's a PDF that they have. It's under the scouting.org youth training /youth protection. All right. There are several different things there, but I wanted to make sure we got some information in about the gaming especially as well, okay? Here, it gives some of the common forms of cyberbullying. Some of these we might be familiar with, some of these were new terms for me, right? So please, as parents, as leaders, keep yourself up to date with this. Some of the signs of victims of cyber or gaming bullying, okay? And some of these things like avoiding the computer, we think of our youth being very tech savvy, but if they're starting to avoid some of those things, it's a red flag for us. So, but these other pieces, withdrawal and low self-esteem, declining grades, those are common signs that we've talked about before with youth protection training. But there are some things that are additional, like acting secretively when online or avoiding the computer and cell phones that are specific to cyber and online things. Okay. If they are being bullied, here are some things that we can do. Okay. Trying to find the individual, work with the internet service provider, and there is a cyber tip hotline that you can call. Okay. And here are some suggestions. All of this is on that fact sheet from the Youth Protection Begins With You. And that youth protection sheet that I mentioned, okay? So all of these things are on that sheet, okay? But ideas of what we need to do, okay? All right, so we often think of youth protection and we think of it as what's happening when we are with the youth and the youth are active with each other. But more and more, we're seeing some cyber kinds of things hanging on, and the gaming piece as well. So please be aware of that and feel free to download the fact sheets and keep up with all of that. Okay. We are now going to move into a instead of breakout sessions, we're going to do a combined thing this evening, talking about bullying awareness and prevention. And so I'm going to turn it over to Matt and Greg and Mary and Rebecca to facilitate this next piece of our roundtable.
Hi, everybody. So I just wanted to make you aware that there are a lot of resources out there to help you kind of have a good discussion with scouts, your own scouts, your scouts you may see at camp, etc., from scouting directly. So I'm going to share my screen if that's okay, just to kind of give you a little bit of information about resources that are available to learn about bullying. Let me share that screen. Okay. So this is the kind of scouting headquarters about bullying awareness, and it's under youth protection. So this is where the material that Ellie was presenting a little bit earlier comes from. So we have everything from newsletters that you can give to your parents. You have the bullying prevention guides. You have definitions that you can use if you want to understand what something means, if you're not 100% on top of all the terms that kind of you may hear when you hear about bullying. And these are all free and available to everybody, and you can link your scouts parents to these materials. Hopefully you'll have a conversation with your unit before the bullying happens to prevent it. But a lot of times, unfortunately, we're reacting to a situation as well. So you want to make sure that maybe you're scheduling some time into your calendar to have a conversation with your youth and your parents to discuss, what can be tolerated, what shouldn't be tolerated, and how to properly protect your scouts from bullying, because unfortunately we're not with them all the time to keep an eye on them to know what's happening. Bullying can be happening on their cell phone, it can be happening on their computer, it can be in school, obviously, it can be at a scout meeting, unfortunately, it can be happening on the bus. So it can happen anywhere, and we can't always be with them. But what we can do is help to prevent bullying and make sure people are aware of what it looks like. So I do want to encourage you to take a look at scouting.org/training/youth-protection/bullying to get to this material. And it's actually quite well done, and it kind of really gives a lot of good definitions and things you can have a conversation with. So how to spot bullying. So maybe you have a scout that suddenly changed his or her personality, and maybe you're not understanding what's going on. Maybe it's an indication that they might be undergoing some bullying, and this is what you can kind of keep an eye out for. So I'm not an expert at bullying, but I do want to point out that these materials do exist, so you can kind of start to prepare and have a good conversation with your scouts and your parents about bullying. Maybe one of the other leaders would want to discuss a little bit about interactions or material that they are aware of, or maybe what bullying could look like at a younger age versus I deal mostly with older scouts, so it might be a little different with what bullying looks like for an older scout. So perhaps does anyone want to share what they've experienced with discussing bullying in their units, or what they might have experience with?
Greg and Rebecca, would you share some information about what you see or look for in the Cub Scouts in the packs?
Yeah, at the Cub Scout level, it's going to be obviously different because, well, even now, a lot of them are starting to get some of the older Cub Scouts get to have cell phones and stuff. So you do have to be aware of that and be aware of the electronic stuff that can happen outside of Scout. It's in Cub Scouts, what we see is kids getting cut out from a group activity or just kind of being ostracized. So that's one sign to look for in Cub Scouts. I don't know, Rebecca, if you have anything to add. Or if anybody else from any of the packs has any things they've observed in their units.
If I may, I'd like to ask a question. Have you come across any resources on how leaders should deal with bullying should they see it? Because, there is a tendency to sometimes overreact, and that can have a negative effect. So I'm wondering if you have, thank you, Matt. That's exactly what we're looking for. I think that's very important to see,
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Peter, and Matt has this up on the screen. But if you're overreacting, you're singling out that scout that's being bullied even more, and so that may subject him to further incidents. So you just need to be treated cautiously. Obviously, you have to act, but there's more. And like this says, spend time with the scout. I think that's important to make sure the scout's heard and what that scout is feeling, and what's been trying to find out what's going on.
Having done the youth protection training not too long ago, I do recall that there is a section in there specifically about bullying that you can kind of go back to, I know that might help kind of refresh some of your information about it. It's funny that when I think about my experience in scouting as a youth, I can remember a time when I was unfortunately bullied by a parent who was at one of my campouts. And at the time, the requirements were a lot different, and there were some situations that probably would never happen today because of our increased level of youth protection. But I will say that my scoutmaster, despite not probably having any sort of formal training on bullying prevention or how to handle it, did a great job. And I think it's lucky that I had some really good leaders in my history that really took things and did the right thing. So I do want to, encourage people to not be afraid to approach the topic. It's not something that's an easy conversation to have with scouts or parents. And sometimes you have to take some actions that aren't going to be comfortable. But there are resources, and you're not alone out there as a leader to try to take things on your own. You have resources. Reach out to your commissioners, reach out to Scout Council office. There are resources even at the national level, and that website that I provided does have some of those. But one of the things is, you're supposed to make a report to the Scout executive. So because of that, make sure that you're not just taking care of it and then letting it move on. Please do try to make an effort to report the incident, because it can be a traumatic incident, and scouting can offer resources directly to the youth and their parents to try to prevent further issues.
Matt, back in my educator background, and it's a long time because I've been retired a few too many years now, but I can still remember us talking about bullying and to the students, and asking the students or telling the students that there are three options when you see bullying happening. You can watch it and let it happen. You can participate in it, or you can tell the instigator to stop it. And that's among the youth. As an adult, it's a little more difficult because we sort of go with our gut and we want to say things like, stop that bullying right now. And that's really not a good way to do it. But if in your discussions with your youth, again, if you can observe it, you can watch it, you can participate in it, or you can tell the perpetrator to stop. And many times the instigator, perpetrator is looking for an audience. So take the audience away and they have nobody to perform in front of, those are just some thoughts that I bring from years of being in education, but certainly the guides that BSA has come through, it is truly amazing what's out there. And in this council, we should be aware, I know some of you younger scouters don't remember this, but I want to say 25, possibly 30 years ago, there was a young girl in Chicopee who, I believe it was Chicopee, who had been harassed either with the internet or whatever, and not the precursor to Facebook. I forgot what it was called even, but they,
MySpace.
What's that?
MySpace.
Yeah, MySpace. They had really ripped her apart in MySpace, and she became suicidal and ended up taking her own life as a teenager.
Yeah, I remember that.
A healthy thing. So it's that important. It's not a rite of passage. And with that, I better be quiet.
right? So I think one thing we can do is try to encourage our scouts to make that, take that step forward if they see bullying happening, and be they call it an upstander, somebody that's literally going to stand up to the bully and stand between the bully and the target and try to stop the behavior. And if we have a number of scouts out there that feel comfortable enough to do that, then we're going to help a number of people that are going to go through bullying. So it's something we can work on with our scouts, is to be comfortable in standing up to the behavior and making the person understood that it's not tolerated, and to report it to adults, because one of the things I read was that most bullying happens when adults aren't around. So, be present, right?
By the way, a little aside, I had a student in my classroom one time who was, I won't say on the edge of bullying or whatnot, but I called him over to my desk and I whispered to him, "What part of the Scout oath and law is that?" And he was shocked for me to ask that question. What part of the Scout oath and law is that does that behavior represent? And it just stopped him dead in his tracks.
I used to do the same thing in school. I had several scouts who I worked with, and it was a challenge for some of them because my students all had special needs of some sort. And so I would kind of go a little bit one step further, Pete, and I would say to him, "I know you're a scout. Give me the scout law." And as he went through it, get too courteous and kind, and I'd say, "Stop. What you just did, was it courteous? Was it kind? Was it obedient?" And if he was sitting outside of the vice principal's office, he didn't want to see me coming. He didn't mind being out of class because class was challenging for him and he was having some learning difficulties and things like that. But to see me coming, was it courteous? Was it kind? Was it obedient? And he was like, ah. It was worse than detention.
I was over at Pathfinder Regional Tech the other day, and I was sitting in the office getting ready to accommodate College of Commissioner Science. And there was a sign in the office, and it said, "Before you speak or Facebook, text, or tweet, think. T, is it true? H, is it helpful? I, is it inspiring? N, is it necessary? And K, is it kind?" And I think that goes along with the topic.
Great.
One thing I was thinking about as an educator is also like to recognize the signs of bullying. You have to take time to actually know the individuals. Like we have to make connections with our scouts, because if we don't make those connections, we might not notice if they start doing all of those little things here and there as they start moving away from the group or whatnot. We might not realize that's out of character if you don't take the time to get to know them. And then the other thing, because I'm with Cub Scouts, so I've got we're with the younger ones. The other thing I was thinking about too is that our parents are very much so involved. And I know myself, if I see my son doing anything that is unkind or not courteous, like I will always not right there in the moment. I'm not going to embarrass him and get crazy, but I'm always going to pull him aside and be like, "Hey, what are you doing? What is that? Like, why are you doing that? How do you think that makes someone else feels?" Because with the younger ones, I feel like a lot of these behaviors are things that they don't necessarily know are not kind. They think they're funny. And I think that's another thing to consider too, is just like with the younger ones, setting them straight, and then also really just getting to know them all, because otherwise you won't notice any signs.
And to piggyback with that, Rachel, is getting to know the families, because some of what they're doing may just be a repetition of what they're seeing at home. There's a great story in our family with a couple of relatives who the mom was going to show off the son, and at Thanksgiving or one of the holiday dinners to every grandparents and aunts and uncles, and what is it that you want to do? And the son came out with the name calling that she usually called the father. So instead of saying, "Oh, I want to do da 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 da," I want to be a, you know. So knowing the families and seeing that family dynamic helps you know whether they're repeating some of the other stuff that they're hearing at home.
So just to add to that really briefly too. So I'm a middle school teacher, and I think a big part of it is with the younger kids, a lot of it is parenting what they hear at home. And then when you start to get to that upper elementary into middle school and high school, we actually had to do a training in my district because of bullying issues. And believe it or not, the number one thing that kids are normally targeted for is weight is actually the number one cause of bullying or the number one target. But then the things you would expect, like race, religion, that sort of thing. But also, I think, Elizabeth, you had said that you used to work with special ed students. That's a really big one too. So if you have kids in your troop, in your pack that are getting services like in school, like kids where they have like an IEP or 504, that tends to be a pretty big target too. Lots of comments in especially middle schools about like, oh, that room's where the dumb kids go, like that kind of thing, which can lead to a lot of exclusion even in outside groups too. So it's still very much a problem. And I think what Rachel said too about knowing your kids, that's been a big part of training with teachers lately is mental health first aid is part of what they call it. And it's looking for those differences in behavior and attitude and participation. Your scout who always wanted to go and do things was always ready to volunteer. Now they're really quiet. They're kind of hanging toward the back. Could just be having a bad day, could be tired, but that could also be something else that's going on too.
I do have a short video from scouting that is specifically like the bullying prevention I'd like to show before we close tonight. So do you mind if I share that, Ellie, or do you want to have anything else before we go?
I know Heather has something. Okay. All right. No, never mind. Yeah. So
I'm here.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure.
So I know of 2 youth who've been through the program. They've been bullied relentlessly for a long time. Eventually it ended up to them withdrawing through everything, getting really depressed, very anxious because of the skin color, the race. They were getting bullied through it. Another one because they came out as gay. They wound up being suicidal. They were able to get the help, get medication, and it was very heartbreaking to see that these 2 kids went through this. Through a lot of help and resources, they were able to get the extra help they needed. And whether it's cyberbullying, bullying in person, whether your skin color, whatever, your background, anything, that right there is something traumatic as well. That will happen through the school, and I've seen it happen in scouting as well, and it happened to affect the 2 youth that I know. And it got to the point where they would wear hoodies and they would cover up the marks on their arms because of it. So it does get very serious, seeing it firsthand from 2 kids. And that's why I always iterate, to stand up for bullying at all times. And especially with our youth protection training, this is something that would be definitely, it helped me to help them out through this.
Awesome. Thanks. Okay, Matt, you have a video for us.
Yeah. I will share my screen. I hope I don't forget to share the audio. Let's do that. Okay, let's see how this goes.
At some point in life, everyone has experienced teasing, meanness, being left out of activities, or not being invited to a party or an event.
During this short module, you will learn how to recognize the bullying roles and dynamic, identify the 4 types of bullying, how to go from bystander to upstander, and see it, stop it, report it. Click on each topic to learn more.
If this is happening to you or someone you know, as soon as it's safe, get away from the situation and tell a trusted adult. There are people that care about you and will listen. In an emergency, call 911.
So you can see this material is actually perfectly suited to Scouts, and the Scouting program has built this to provide as a resource. I don't know if we need to go through each one of these. I think I'd recommend that we do that individually, perhaps, so we can kind of maybe have those conversations with our Scouts. But I did put a link in the chat to this, to these videos, so you can review them at your time and kind of make sure that you get a chance to go through them and have that conversation with your Scouts.
All right, thanks, Matt.
Mhm.
Do we have any other thoughts, comments, questions from anyone before we move to a closing? Okay. I know this has been a really heavy topic for everyone tonight. I think it was important that we meet as a group as a whole rather than doing breakout sessions so that we could see that there is a continuum as those of us who have been or are Cub Scout leaders. As we move into scouting and venturing and things, there is a progression that happens. And we talk about ages and stages all the time when we're doing trainings. I thought it was important that we all see and hear all of the same information at the same time. And I know it's a heavy topic. There are a lot of resources that BSA has. And I want to encourage you all to use those links that have been put up there and go look for that other information. Mary opened with some information and a nice little poem about the fall and autumn. And ironically, I had one for closing that was very similar. But since we've just had this whole amount of time of really heavy kind of stuff, let's close on a light topic with a quote that I found that said, "Never jump into a pile of leaves with a wet sucker." So have a great night, everybody. Enjoy the leaf raking that's to come and keep those lollipops away from the leaves.